Anton, I cast him in Taken, and then John Wells cast him in ER when he was very young. When I saw his dailies on ER, that's how I got the part in Taken. And he kept impressing people because he was so good, and he kept getting these great parts. I love the movie he made with Justin Timberlake, and I loved him, in Star Trek, JJ, and I. Yeah, I worked with Anton on a miniseries for the Sci-Fi Channel when he was much younger called Taken. But he started out on my series ER, and I think that might have been the first thing he did, I think. A very sweet young man, dedicated to acting, not shooting for the stars, just shooting for good roles that would test him, and a little bit like Mark Rylance, who likes to play different characters each time.
Я знаю, сколько ты, не знаю, я тебя так люблю, любимая, что
I love you. Love, Antosha. Thank you for every hug, kiss, smile, and every bowl of soup. You are an extraordinary, charming woman, and you have an equally extraordinary husband, and a son that is your baby, as long as he lives. Love, Antosha.
He wrote cards all his life, not just for holiday. I love you more than anything in this world, in this earth. Thank you for everything. Love, Antosha. And that's a man. That's not a kid writing.
I'm sure you learned some cool stuff.
Well, throughout the film, I was so lucky because David is one of the most sensitive people that I know, and I never once, I think, had to actually say what I was feeling, and it was amazing. The only person that's like that with me is my mom, so it was weird that, but wonderful that David, so sensitive to everything I was feeling.
By the end of the...
That's very motherly.
For me, I think it is a nice way to please a bunch of people because there's people out there that cannot handle horror movies. Like this man cries, weeps in horror movies. I'm holding him in my lap most of the time. And then there's people who can handle horror movies. And then there's people who love comedies, like this man as well, and myself. So
to play, by example, to play with Colin Farrell.
And me. Do you feel lucky to work with
me? Do you feel lucky to be in the same room with you?
To be a superhero like Red Mist.
Yeah.
To play with in The Beaver as
Jodie Foster.
Yes, Jodie Foster. Do you feel lucky to have this panel of people who work with you?
Yeah, of course. I feel lucky every day to be being able to make movies and play characters and experience this job, which is really a gift to be able to do.
We get to come to Deauville.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
It is. It's amazing to come out here.
No, yeah, in all seriousness. To be treated so well and to travel around the world and live so nicely and eat so well.
One of your favorite movies is Taxi Driver, which Jodie Foster
yeah,
was in.
Yeah, so it's to be on set with Jodie, I was blown away. And Colin, whenever you meet people that are so extraordinary at what they do and so talented, or this man, I was a big fan of this guy too. When you work with people that you really respect and appreciate and they're so good at what they do, it enriches that job that you already feel lucky to do, because you feel lucky to just be able to do it. And then when you're working with people you have such respect for, it gets even better. And yeah, it's truly a gift.
So how do you see yourselves in 5 years? Do you think you're
hopefully, yeah. I love to act, so hopefully, knock on wood, that I can still be doing it in 5 years. I just see myself hoping to make movies that I want to go see in theaters, which I've been lucky enough to do so far, and I want to play some music too.
I found it sexy, and I know that there are many other women out there that will find you to be completely just. Those were the days. Was that you playing the piano?
Yes, it was.
Can you play guitar?
I play guitar, yes. I can play guitar, and I'm picking up harmonica.
Wait, so you got scales? So you got...
Oh, yeah.
Do I need to be alone?
Steady, Lust Bucket.
Sorry.
I'm suddenly taking on kind of a paternal role here. Stop cruising, my boy.
Are you feeling protective? I'm drawing the line here. I'm going over.
Thinking, I don't know. I mean, it's really up to you if you guys are going to get a room or something.
Well, we are in a hotel after all.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind?
Maybe one that's not lit with cameras.
I think the general gist of it is about people listening to each other, you know what I mean? And just, because it's a kid that really comes to school with the intention of being popular and becomes really popular because he gets everyone to listen to each other and listens to them.
I just had such an impulse right in the middle of that speech when you were getting going to just go, boring alert.
I feel like the comedy lies. I can't top lies beneath. I'm just gonna shut up.
You know what it is? It comes out of those truisms of you're by yourself, you're doing this, you think you're doing the right thing, the meds aren't right, and you go on some manic trip. And I think everyone cycles into manageable versions of that, and then the overt departures from those kind of, homeostases is really scary. And that's what happens with, when one of the characters actually really, really is clinically troubled, Come on, you wanted to say it. Just say it. Let me start over again and just yell it out. It's boring alert. The homeostasis, the boring alert.
No, homeostasis is a good word. I could hear it all day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's the driving force. Boring alert!
It was great. It was boring. It was.
Get what he wants. This is okay.
Yeah. No. It was hard. Like Robert. he loosens them up.
We're not tired.
And
And I just remember we had to go toe to toe a couple times there, literally, and it was just really fun. Boring. I got nothing left.
It was a great.
We got one more. You steamed me.
They certainly won't be bored.
Yeah.
The opening scene in the film, you've got Bruce Willis talking about parenting and how really ultimately it's so important. And I look at you guys and you all seem like, you got your shit together. And how do you stay level-headed in a business like this where I'm not saying you're going to... Let's talk about your parents and how important that's been to you in your lives.
For me, my parents are the most important thing in my life. They're my closest friends, and I trust them more than anybody, and I listen to them because they've always given me respect in the first place, and admiration all their time, even when they didn't have it, and they always gave me everything sometimes when they couldn't afford it, and I don't mean materially, and so that's just how I feel in this sort of. My parents keep me grounded and keep me looking into myself to see what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, and I respect them more than anybody I could think of.
You guys are so awesome in this movie, and really, I hope people get it. I really do. It's so good.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow.
Can you talk a little bit about, you mentioned working with your peers in that intense, like the green room environment. What about Patrick Stewart? What did he give you, or what did you, as a fellow actor and as a colleague on the set, or what did you take from him?
Well, outside of, I guess, the practice, what we were doing, the concrete aspects of what we were doing, he's the loveliest, most respectful, most open human being with everyone. And that's not to say that he's like, we didn't really talk on set at all. We talked in the van afterwards going home, but on set there was no reason for us to be talking, and it was sort of anathema to what we were trying to do. Yeah. But his respect for every crew member, and that comes from a great respect, I think, for yourself. I mean, if you respect yourself, you are able to respect others. And I think when you look at actors of that caliber, and that have, as Jeremy said, such an esteemed career, have accomplished so much on stage and screen, and they come to work and they treat everyone respectfully, you just go, man, I want to be that human being. Forget that actor. I just want to get to that place of being a human being like that. And I think that was probably my biggest takeaway, honestly, is it was so impressive and he's also, you know, Sir Patrick Stewart, but when I think of a Sir, I don't really think of a man that's as funny and light and like, it's some stereotype that I have in my head. It's wildly inappropriate, obviously, but, and then on set, you know, we don't see one another. We see one another at the very end, which is ironically what we shot first. And then the rest of the film, I just hear his voice, and his voice is so powerful and so terrifying, and how calm it seemed all the time, that it was incredibly menacing, incredibly menacing.
I'm about to get the hook, but as a lifelong Trekker, I'm obliged to ask Anton one Star Trek question.
Sure.
So Star Trek Beyond is coming up. It marks the 50th anniversary of the franchise. It marks the 2nd year of the mission for the crew and the film, and I think the 7th year for you in the role of Ensign Pavel Chekhov. So,
I guess, yes.
Can you just reflect for me on where you're at, where the franchise is at, and where Chekhov is at in the new story?
You know, honestly, I'll get to see it when everyone else does, when it comes out. I don't really know. I mean,
when does it come out?
It comes out in July.
Okay.
I think. So yeah, I don't know. I mean,
no spoilers, of course, but
we'll see. I mean, you know, they're floating along and they're in space per usual, and that's about as much as I know. Honestly, we'll see how it's come together. It was kind of a wild shoot, but you know, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Take him so long to get over the cough and things. And let's get the book how to play guitar. And he started playing guitar so good.
This blues for you, Mom. Mommy, I love you so, Mommy. Oh, Mommy, I love you a lot. So beautiful, Mommy. So beautiful, Mom.
I never met anyone quite like him.
Мамуля, с днем рождения, любимая моя. Дорогая моя, тебя обожаю, чтобы ты была здорова.
Yeah, well, you're not really a magician.
Oh, yeah, I am.
Well, because you do one trick, that makes you a magician?
Did I trick you? Curb is such a different kind of experience. I mean, Curb, you go on the audition and you pick a scenario out of a hat, and then you go in the room, and there's like 10 execs there and Larry David, and you just improvise a scene with Larry David. And I basically did it, and then when I got it, they're like, what you said in the audition, what you did in the audition, that's what the scene's gonna be.
Are you going to tell me this trick?
No.
Magicians don't reveal their
Fine,
secrets.
I got to go.
You guys are a lot alike.
Yeah, except he's not a magician.
I got to know Anton where he was kind of on his own for the first time, but he was still really attached to his parents, really attached to his mother.
We were just hanging out. We didn't talk about our parents. And then his mom was coming into town, and he was so excited. And I was like, are you seriously excited your mom is coming? I start getting like a pre-migraine when my mother's coming into town. I love her, but I need you to write me something.
Room 2117. 5 o'clock.
So did you see yourself as becoming the thinking woman's sex symbol?
You know, it's funny that you should say that.
It's startling in a way. There's something angelic about him and pure about him and open and obviously intelligent, but they're very rare, really.
I mean, I'm still not very confident that I'm good enough, you know? I don't know that I'll ever be confident in that.
You're at the ground floor of a growing business. Your reward is a career.
It was really like just a bunch of friends kind of coming together. And that was where you can really really understand his talent on a deeper level, because he led that movie, and it was all complete improv.
It's such a heavy piece of material, but when the camera stopped rolling, it was just voices and dialects and goofy characters.
Good things, Tommy. You promised me. You do good things.
I promise.
was an absolute one of a kind. With Anton, you just know they broke the mold. There was nothing about him that wasn't wonderful. I remember he was always there, always on the set watching me, and then after a take, he'd come over and ask me questions about it, or when we did a scene afterwards, he didn't go rolling off into his trailer. He wanted it always to be of a piece.
Presenting the Breakthrough Award tonight is his House of D director. Give it up for David Duchovny.
I learned about integrity, artistic integrity, about artistic morality, if that can be said, about honesty. And the only thing that I can fault him for is that, you know, when he worked with Robin Williams, he would always call him Mr. Williams, and he called me David. But Anton, the luckiest thing and the best thing I ever did was put you in my movie. Come here and get this.
Thank you, Mr. Duchovny. It's really great to be here. I'm not really good at taking compliments, so I'll try to make this as quick as possible. More than anything, my parents, who are always like, you know, symbols of strength and for me, and have always shown me a lot of love and kindness since I was tiny. You know, thank you.
Dear Mamula and Papua, every day in Tokyo, I think about how terrifying it was for you to come to a country where you did not speak a word of the language with the intention of starting a new life. And I think about how you did it so that I could have a better life, despite what the sacrifice might mean to you. I always worry that I somehow can't express my appreciation, so I try to write these notes expressing that I do think about and appreciate and respect and thank God for you and everything that you have given me. As I write this, I see the trips to Toys R Us, to the zoo, I see the video cameras, and all the attention that I got. I wish I could take all of these things and put them together and give them back to you with all the love that you gave me. I love you so much, and I hope you know this. I wish for you to be happy and healthy for another million, billion, trillion years. I wish for us to be able to celebrate all together for all of those happy and healthy years.
I'm so grateful, because я знаю, сколько ты, не знаю, я тебя так люблю, ты не знаешь, что ты.
I love you. Love, Antosha.
Don't want him ever to be forgotten.
Our dear, dear son, we wish you all the best life in this. All your hopes, dreams, wishes, praise will come true. Absolutely for sure. Because you deserve it.
I've never, I mean, everybody loves their children, but I don't think anybody really loved their child like they loved Anton.
Victor said to me, let's pretend Anton went for a long, long shoot. He just went to shoot movie. And I said, I can't pretend like this, Victor. Because he would call a million times. It would be not true.
Мамуля, с днем рождения, любимая моя. Дорогая моя, я тебя обожаю, чтобы ты была здорова.
Most guys, you know, that are like 10, 11, and 12, you say to them, okay, dance, they want to run away.
I always dance with my mom at parties and in between my dad dancing with my mom because my parents are ice skaters. So my mom always wants me to dance with her, so I don't say no. So I always dance with my mom.
First time we heard about it, when we went to the doctor, just wondering why Anton has, why it's so hard for him to find simple cold, why it's taking him so long to get over the cough and things. And the doctor wasn't sure about it, but he said we need to run tests for cystic fibrosis. Finally, we were called in, and the doctor said the results are positive. Anton has cystic fibrosis.
Imagine being born with chronic illness and your parents being told that you're not going to live beyond a certain age without a significant amount of therapies and significant amount of medications to modify how their body functions to maintain their activity. That's a huge burden to bear.
The doctors were saying the symptoms of this disease are shortness of breath, wheezing, low energy. He's going to start coughing more.
One of the hardest things with CF is they don't look sick, but they're battling all the time.
Numerous times a day, he'd have to be hooked up to a breathing machine that he'd, would have to literally just pounce against his lungs and cough up mucus, and then have to go outside and put on a smile, and through that also wanted to keep that inside and not tell anyone.
A call time's usually bright and early. He had to do his breathing exercise like 2 hours before just to get himself prepared to start the day. Nobody knew that but Anton. Nobody knew that. People are finding out right now, actually. This is insane.
I had arranged to meet with Anton. I think Irina drove him over and dropped him off, and we sat down. And I said, so, why do you want to play Charlie Bartlett? What is it you like about the character of the movie? And the first thing he said is, I like how honest he is and how he wants to do things for his friends. He wants to take care of people.
I have a small growth in one of the ventricles of my brain. To date, I've had 4 brain surgeries. Anton was one of the very, very few people that knew that about me. He would always be very concerned. He knew instantly when things weren't right. Because of him and because of our friendship, that I was able to be a bit more accepting of the circumstances I was in.
If you can explain what you're doing, or better yet, why you're doing it, that'd be a good start.
Look, I'm helping these kids, okay? Nobody else is listening to them.
Charlie could be the loneliest of people, but he chooses not to be. It's the intelligence of his decisions, and as a result, his responsibilities and the consequence of these that shape his character.
He was always kind of observing people and their behavior, and he took that into his work a lot too, because he'd be able to take different characters, and he loved stories. He loved human stories.
Charlie's an optimist. People are depending on him.
He had so much love for the people that were close to him in his life. I lost my dad when I was 13, and he was there for me,
The funny thing is I would use my disease to to help me out occasionally, to bail me out. And this guy was so selfless that he was able to keep such a serious thing secret.
Anton was great at what he did, but he was kind of worried that because of his condition, he maybe wouldn't be able to work.
Now, you're not going to get away from this interview without my asking you about Star Trek. And I'm sorry, I apologize right now. It's part of the deal. You're in the new Star Trek movie directed by J.J. Abrams, and the whole world is curious about it, and that includes me. So you're playing the young Chekhov?
Right, Pavel Chekhov, right.
On the first Star Trek, we said we wanted to clone little Antons and give them away as rap gifts. Just tiny pet Antons that
I think it was just the kind of joy and the kind of happiness and optimism he sort of encapsulates. And of course, the fun of playing around with that great accent.
The character of Chekhov in Star Trek speaks a kind of Russian that doesn't really exist.
They're creating a singularity that will consume the planet.
And it was actually really hard for Anton at the beginning to speak Russian badly.
He couldn't. He went to my father, and I said, well, ask JJ, is my accent is good? And he said, Mom, no. When he was business, he was saying, Mom, your accent is not good for this. I need grandpa accent.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Sorry,
Mr.
sir.
Chekhov, what is it?
Based on the Narada's course from Yelchin.
I remember being with him on set and doing a classic J.J. Abrams sort of 19-hour day. And he looked so tired. I remember he was trying to say this very complicated speech about dropping out of warp and hiding behind Saturn. And his little eyes were so sort of red. He never looked younger to me than on that day.
If we adjust our shield frequencies, we should not be detected.
Wait a minute, kid. How old are you?
17, sir.
I can certainly say for the group of people that got to work with him, he might have been the youngest person on camera, but he was, I think, the person that sort of quietly, without even realizing it, I think, challenging all of us to be as good as he was.
It's an interesting line to follow because you pick and choose and you see what you can bring that's your own. And then I met with Walter Koenig and we had this talk and he said, it looks like you guys are being really smart about this and doing your own thing. And yet, I see traces of myself in what you're doing. And it was really great for me to hear that because I was so nervous about meeting him. And he seemed so pleased.
Here we are, we're all coming together to revamp this old franchise that had moved people for so long. And Anton was the youngest one in the cast. And his angle about we have to do this right, and if not, people will be unhappy. We're talking about peace, it was about friendship, it was about ending war. And I remember thinking, my God, this kid is so deep. I gotta get myself in shape.
I play guitar and Anton played incredible guitar, and so, we'd inevitably kind of bring our guitars to the set and tool around, and Anton in all of his frustrating humility, he never wanted to pat himself on the back, it seemed like. He'd say, well, I don't really know, how to play all that much, and then he'd whip out some Mississippi John Hurt or something that was just like, I've just been playing this for a little bit. He really knew what he was talking about, no matter what it was, and there was some real beauty in that. We went back to we had some, shooting on set, and then going back to the trailers, and I said, you want to come in and jam? He's like, no, I gotta go back to, it turns out he's translating this Russian novel that's this big, a Russian philosophy tract. He's making notes on this thing and translating it at the same time. He's, mind you, 17 years old.
It was so funny. He didn't consider himself a musician, and he didn't consider himself a singer. And he was a damn great musician, but he was a little bit, I think, self-conscious. He always wanted to be the best at what he did.
I did that episode of ER. It was a very heavy episode, and it was the first time I had to cry for anything. And I just wept and wept and wept, and I couldn't stop crying after they cut. And it was weirdly cathartic and kind of awesome, but very painful at the same time. My mom was really freaked out.
Yeah. How are you in school? Good in school?
Good. All A's except in gym.
In gym?
Yeah.
You're a child after my own heart, I have to say. But your parents are athletes.
Yeah, so I think that's enough in our family.
Yeah.
When Anton was 8 years old, because I know exactly when I was very sick, and he would come, and every day, dear mommy, I love you. I wish for you to feel million, trillion, billion times better tomorrow. Dear mommy, I love you so very much. I adore you. I wish for you to feel billion, trillion times better tomorrow. And that was 20. Those type of cards, he would just slip under the door or kiss me and do that. And then when I got good already, I was already went to work, he would just write, dear mommy, I love you, love Antosha. Dear mommy, I love you, love Antosha. Just like this. This is that's a treasure. It's no gifts better than those.
I'm very fortunate because my mom You know, she was teaching all the time. She still choreographs, but she would literally, like, in her skating suit, take me to auditions after work, and she just believed that this is what I loved. So I owe her everything, really, just for believing in me, you know?
He would look down his feet for the first 6 months, I would say. Wouldn't look up. He'd get very scared. And all we had to do was instill self-imagination, self-esteem for the first 6 months. And then a light bulb went on.
73 years ago, there once lived a man, and his name was Mr. Picanus. He was the greatest artist ever. He painted Picasso sometimes, even could be like him.
We did a lot of improv. Like, we would do things like where he would give us an assignment to come home and make something. And I actually enjoyed those moments more than I did where we had to learn scenes. And because at the time, scenes were just lines to me. They weren't really characters. Whereas these things were, I could just create stuff, kind of like I did at home.
He spoke Russian and English. Anton was like a sponge. Whatever you told him, he could remember like forever.
Chris Carr said to me, he doesn't need classes. You know what? He truly needs to go for auditions. And I said, what kind of auditions? I'm working full time. I can't do it. And he said, do you have an agent? I said, no, and we don't want any agent. We're just here for fun. Then he said, it's an audition without no agents. Just go. Let's get the book, How to Play Guitar. And he started playing guitar so good.
This blues for you, Mom. Mommy, I love you so, Mommy. Oh, Mommy, I love you a lot. So beautiful, Mom. So beautiful, Mom.
I never met anyone quite like him in the sense that there were these sort of classic childlike qualities about him and very old qualities, and they just coexisted. That is, he had a curiosity that with most people degrades over time.
Love you, baby. Yeah.
But not with him.
Thank you, Mr. Duchovny. It's really great to be here. I'm not really good at taking compliments, so I'll try to make this as quick as possible. More than anything, my parents, who are always like, you know, symbols of strength and for me, and have always shown me a lot of love and kindness since I was tiny. You know, thank you.
Dear Mamula, you are my best friend, the closest person to me in the world, and the most amazing woman that I know. Your soul, through your beautiful eyes, shines. It does not matter whether you are laughing or yelling, regardless of whether I'm smart enough to show it. I always, always, always have so much respect for who you are. For how strong, smart, wonderful, talented, interesting, intelligent, and just how, your least favorite word, cool you are. Thank you for every hug, kiss, smile, and every bowl of soup. You are an extraordinary, charming woman, and you have an equally extraordinary husband, and a son that is your baby, as long as he lives. Love, Antosha.
I remember I was like a little intimidated by Irina, just a little bit. We were maybe like 11 or 12, and we'd be looking at something on the internet, something inappropriate or whatever, and then, you know, we'd hear from downstairs, like, Antosha! And he'd yell back, Что? You know, just like, what? You know, that's when our hormones just started kicking in. So we were just totally girl crazy.
You will, and it will be the kiss by which all others in your life will be judged.
Dear Journal, today I have my first kiss. This was my first kiss with Mika. It was okay. I kind of liked it. It was very nice. And I did it twice. I hope it happens many more times.
I said, Anton, what you've got to do is wait for the good scripts, you know,
the thing that's going to launch you to the next step. And he said to me, no, I want to do everything. I said, no, you can't do everything. Because there's a lot of junk out there. You don't want to be part of it. No, I want to do everything. I don't care. I want to act.
Anton, where he was kind of on his own for the first time, but he was still really attached to his parents, really attached to his mother.
So we were just hanging out. We didn't talk about our parents. And then his mom was coming into town, and he was so excited. And I was like, are you seriously excited your mom is coming? I start getting like a pre-migraine when my mother's coming into town. I love her, but I need you to write me something.
Everybody was away from their families, so something very beautiful happened where we all just sort of came together.
He surprised me every time he spoke about something. I thought, you know, what a bright, intelligent human being.
Anton and me and Sophia every weekend would be out on the sailboat in the harbor in Vancouver.
It was so particular and so interesting.
I have this great picture of me on the boat. I'm falling asleep on Anton's lap. And Anton's with his like sweatshirt, and I can tell he's like, God damn, I've probably been asleep for like an hour on his lap, but he doesn't want to move me. It's really cute. I got that one.
There is this thing, you pretend to be a family over a number of years, and at some point you kind of are.
I wanted to set it in a cemetery. So we were walking around the cemetery and we were having this conversation, we were doing the scene, and then in the middle of the scene, Anton was just like, I don't want to be here.
I don't know, I don't like walking on people's graves.
You don't want to people's graves. This is the bit in between the graves.
No, I don't like this. I don't like this.
And Felicity's trying to do the scene, in the scene, and we're shooting, and she's like, oh no, let's stay, let's stop, let's sit down. And he's like, no, I gotta go, I gotta go.
This is freaking me out.
Why?
I don't know.
I forgot about it, and then after watching it, I was like, oh my God, he was so in tune to this frequency. He had this radar for energy and for feeling and stuff, and he was just in touch with that side of the universe in a way.
He was getting very worried about himself because he started reading blogs, CF blogs. He started reading other people with CF and felt very disturbed.
Hi, Mary. I've been feeling up and down. Increased airway clearance right now to 4 times a day. My folks have been doing the percussion on my side and my back 1 to 2 times a day. I've been exercising a minimum of 45 minutes a day. Gotta get it into this idiot brain of mine that I have to fight this thing. Had a really heavy feeling night a few days back where I looked up CF on Instagram and I saw all the kids that are fighting so hard and proud to do it, calling themselves fighters. And I was really moved. I've always wanted to shy away from feeling proud that I fight this thing all the time, so I've avoided fighting it. But I gotta be proud, and I gotta tell myself that most people never have to deal with this sort of stuff, and I should be proud of myself that I man up and do, as long as I actually man up and do. And if I don't, that's a crime against the potentiality and against all those that do. Anyway, ranting. Thank you again for all your help. Speak soon, Anton.
You know, on the back of the hat, it was these words, incurable, life-threatening disease. I was worried for him every single minute. And I felt so bad for him that he had to do all this. Why my son has to do it? And then he would look at me and he'd say, Mamuля, please do not worry. It's okay, I can handle it. Trust me.
Also a director that loves improv, and the idea of someone suffering, doing something that is unfair to people that they really care about is something that sort of transcends that format as a kind of human experience.
I told him he has to be always on alert. This illness in there, and you have to be careful. Just because he was not a Superman, he wants to do something, and sometimes he did, which he shouldn't.
We're doing this 9-day sequence of vampires on fires, and I'm like, is it safe for Anton to be on fire? And they're like, yeah, it's safe. And I'm like, okay. Suddenly the studio calls, what the hell are you guys doing?
Burning a lead actor.
Because of what he went through his whole life with his disease, it's why he wanted to get a lot done. He didn't want to let it take him down, you know? Like he would talk about it with me like there was this beast inside of him, you know?
Excuse me. I finished 2 films over the summer. And I'm starting work on another film, and then there might be another, an improvised film.
He was always going further than the rest of us. What he was thinking about, what he was looking at, what he was interested in, what was the next project. He had this immigrant mentality to a point that I think that he needed to work rather than sit still in the confidence of his talent. I don't think he gave himself much of a break.
He'd go to very risky projects, and then he'd do something that was more like a job. He was so intense about his quest to really find situations that would challenge him. He was very practical, he was very pragmatic about career stuff, but at the same time, he deeply felt a duty to educate himself and to challenge himself.
Anton and I became friends. We would probably spend 3, 4, 5 hours together talking about life. He was an old soul, you know, and I, you know, don't talk in terms of old souls and stuff like that. But I found myself treating him as a contemporary. I remember he had no desire to be like the flavor of the month.
Just really did not. He looked skinnier than usual. He was coughing a lot more. Just we were all worried about him. He was scared. I saw him scared. I felt him scared.
Remember he said, oh God, I gotta start taking better care of my health. He didn't want to worry his mother, you know?
Mamula, how are you? I miss you. I've been going non-stop in a way since I left for Dubai, so it's starting to catch up with me. Paris is beautiful as always, but I miss LA. Paris is pretty, but it is not home.
He was sometimes so tired fighting it that he probably was skipping breathing exercises and stuff.
Aside from all the things he was reading for work to studying old movies, he started playing with us regularly whenever he was in town. I mean, the guy, he loved expressing himself, but he always felt like he needed to work harder.
We would play a midnight show at the Viper Room on Sundays, and it would be from like 11 to 1 a.m. And we wouldn't necessarily invite anybody, we just did it. It was just another creative outlet that he could do.
I'm gonna have to jump up and perform some tricks in a couple hours, but can barely keep my head on, my legs from twitching and my head from cramping.
It always amazed me how he was able to find time to take care of his own health. He would say, it's what I love, and I'm not gonna let CF stop me from doing what I love.
He added tons of exercises himself, and I was so happy when he wants to build muscles and be stronger than he was.
I mean, his abs, they almost clanked. It was like a conquistador's suit of armor under there.
And then he'd take his shirt off, and he was like this jacked dude. And you're like, what? Where's that been? And he's like, just from coughing so much. And I was like, oh, probably.
Have you completely lost your mind?
Well, I know it seems a bit...
I'm not talking to you, nut job. I'm talking to Mom. It takes you years to get him out of here, and you let him come back the next night with a talking hamster?
He did a lot of thinking and a lot of writing, and sometimes his thinking got in his way, you know? It's almost like his brain was too big and he couldn't contain all of his ideas.
We met at Subway, and we sat for like 3 hours just talking. Kind of went from 0 to 100 and stayed there for a long time.
Sophie was only serious girlfriend, nicest girl, and they were young, and she was not patient enough. And for him, films was priority.
Very serious for both of us, and pretty much broke up because we were just too young, unfortunately. He hit me up after he had his heart broken and was like, hey, can we talk?
I just kind of figured out like what that actually feels like, and I'm so sorry. And I was like, dude, it's fine. Like like literally we were tiny children. But for someone to call someone and be like, hey, that thing that you went through, I had no idea, but now I do, and I'm so sorry. I was like, dude, it's fine. Like,
I was 14 when I worked with him, but then yeah, he and I were really good friends for like 2 years. And then he kind of like broke my heart. I was so kind of baffled by how good he was in working with him. And then subsequently just like couldn't be around him.
Actor after friends found him pinned between his 2015 Jeep Grand Cherokee and a fence at his home.
Here's a guy who struggled with his lungs for as long as I knew him. And he's pinned so he can't breathe. Like, out of all fucking things, that's it? And you go to the house and you look at the gate and you're like, this little thing right here caught the last moments of my friend, this little spot in the universe.
You can't take away him from us. You can't take him away from me. And you can't fucking do this.
I don't want him ever to be forgotten.
Our dear, dear son, we wish you all the best life in this. All your hopes, dreams, wishes, praise will come true. Absolutely for sure. Because you deserve it.
I've never, I mean, everybody loves their children, but I don't think anybody really loved their child like they've loved Anton.
Victor said to me, let's pretend Anton went for a long, long shoot. He just went to shoot movie. And I said, I can't pretend like this, Victor. Because he would call a million times. It would be not true.
Мамуля, с днем рождения, любимая моя. Дорогая моя, тебя обожаю, чтобы ты была здорова. Well, mama, man, I played blues for you. Mom, baby, just like I used to. It's a long time coming, but it's finally here. Mom, baby, won't you hear? Mommy, I played blues for you. Well, mommy, I played blues for you. Well, mom, baby, tell you how much I love you. Well, it's a long time coming, but it's finally here. Mom, baby, won't you near? Mommy, I sang the blues for you.
Dear Mamula and Papula, every day in Tokyo, I think about how terrifying it was for you to come to a country where you did not speak a word of the language with the intention of starting a new life. And I think about how you did it so that I could have a better life, despite what the sacrifice might mean to you. I always worry that I somehow can't express my appreciation, so I try to write these notes expressing that I do think about and appreciate and respect and thank God for you and everything that you have given me. As I write this, I see the trips to Toys R Us, to the zoo. I see the video cameras and all the attention that I got. I wish I could take all of these things and put them together and give them back to you with all the love that you gave me. I love you so much. I wish for us to be able to celebrate all together for all of those happy and healthy years.
I'm so grateful, потому что я знаю, сколько... А не знаю, мам, я тебя так люблю, любимая моя, супер.
I love you. Love, Antosha.
I did that episode of ER. It was a very heavy episode, and it was the first time I had to cry for anything. And I just wept and wept and wept, and I couldn't stop crying after they cut. And it was weirdly cathartic and kind of awesome, but very painful at the same time. Like, my mom was really freaked out because she, I mean, I don't think any parent, I mean, I don't know what kind of parent want to sit there and see their kid weep, you know?
Right.
And it was kind of off-putting to her